Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, and I am joined by my buddy Vubang. What's up, Vubang?
What's up, Patrick? Glad to be back.
I figured, it is Thanksgiving when we give thanks. And so I figured, this season has been really entertaining, especially coming off of last season's mediocrity. And I was like, man, I got so much gratitude for this Golden State Warriors team and everything going on so far, being 15-2 and all. And I wanted to talk to Vubang because I know he's always thankful for a lot of things. This is the gratitude episode. What are you thankful for in terms of this Warriors team?
I've been thinking about this a lot because my life is going great. Everything is going really well with my life. I don't want to make it seem like things are terrible or anything, but this is the most exciting thing in my life right now. And that's not a reflection of my life, but just a reflection of how good the Warriors are. This is unexpected. It is going beyond belief. Everybody is basically saying this is just like a long no-hitter that no one wants to just jinx. Everybody doesn't want to say it, but this is real. I'll just say that it's been really fun so far, just watching this team. It's a combination of all of the old Warrior, old as in 2015 and on Warriors that have been so good. But then all those games in the last 2 years where you're just like, this team is not good, but just really fun to watch. And it's both combined. So I'll start with that.
Give me your first thing.
All right. The first is pretty easy. It's Larry Riley. Can we not give it up enough for Larry Riley for drafting Steph Curry? And on the other side of that is the Minnesota Timberwolves for doing us a favor twice. Not only drafting Johnny Flynn and I was going to say Marco Rubio.
Please don't. Please
don't. So basically picking 2 point guards, not Steph Curry, and then 11 years later, trading draft rights to Kuminga later on and Andrew Wiggins for D'Angelo Russell. It's just amazing. Twice. They did this twice. They basically built potentially 2 to 3/3 of this starting lineup in the near future, current and near future for us, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, that's the start of this whole dynasty, right? Larry Riley and Don Nelson reneging on on trading Steph to the Suns. For all the stuff that Don Nelson did with Chris Webber, all that drama, for all his shenanigans. I will always be thankful for him being so shameless to be like, no, we're not doing that. No, we're not going to do that train, And I know there were other moving parts with it, but that's how I like to remember Don Nelson. My first thing that I'm thankful for kind of dovetails a little bit with yours. I will say Bob Myers. I will say I'm thankful for Bob Myers because he saw the writing was on the wall with Kevin Durant. He shed his tears and it didn't help. He didn't keep Kevin Durant from leaving, but he made those hard choices and he turned losing Kevin Durant for nothing ultimately into Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga. So he got D'Angelo Russell in the sign and trade. He gave up a pick. And then he had to get rid of Iguodala and a pick, a not very popular decision at the time. And he got Russell, and then he flipped Russell for Wiggins and the Minnesota pick. And obviously that pick became Jonathan Kuminga. And then we got Andre Iguodala back in free agency. So it's all good. The gang's all here, And that is a hell of a trio of just having these 3 small forwards, right? You have Iguodala, who's the old vet who can play defensive minutes, critical minutes, lead on the floor, tell everybody what to do, the adult in the room. You have Andrew Wiggins, who's coming into his own right now, knock on wood so far. And then you have Kuminga, who's waiting in the wings, who can do all the things. So Bob Myers, I give you thanks.
My next one, I'm going to add, it's going to be 3 that I'm going to combine into one in reaction to what you said. The first is Kevin Durant for choosing the Brooklyn Nets. Essentially, he chose, what we're hearing now is he chose the Knicks with Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving's like, no, what about the Nets? We will take over the Nets. I'm from New Jersey, grew up with the Keith Van Horn era or whatever the hell he grew up with of the Nets. And because of that, we got D'Angelo Russell. Bob Myers knew that the Minnesota Timberwolves wanted him. apparently they flew him on a private jet, and the Warriors made the offer when he was on the jet, or some crazy story about him being on the jet with the ownership of the Timberwolves. So he had this in his back pocket, knowing that there will always be a trade market as long as Cat played for them. And so thank you, Kevin Durant. And also conversely, thank you, Kyrie Irving. Not only am I enjoying watching the Warriors do well, but I'm really enjoying the drama that is happening between the three most drama-filled basketball players in the current NBA. Watching Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant is like watching two ex-girlfriends become best friends later on. It's pretty awesome. That's more a reflection of me than them, but whatever. I think it's fun. Related to all this, as you mentioned, Andre Iguodala. I know it wasn't popular when he left, and we did have to trade a first-round pick with Iguodala, and we just got Andre Iguodala back, right? And it's not just any Andre Iguodala. It is 2 years of Heat culture Andre Iguodala. Like he didn't get traded to the Grizzlies to sit on a bench and coach somebody off the bench. He got traded to zero body fat Heat culture. And so he was essentially training and going deep into the playoffs 2 years in a row. So he wasn't just sitting on his ass. Like, thank you, Heat culture, for bringing us this Andre Iguodala.
Plus, Iguodala he sees the writing on the wall. He knows he only has like a year or two left, and he seems very glad to be back, right? Like in this situation with the rest of the championship core. Also, he's more than happy and willing to kind of give his insights, provide a little mentorship to the young guys. I mean, he always did that, right? He did that for Patrick McCaw, wherever the heck he is now, you know? I also want to say one more thing about Bob Myers is that I'm thankful that he has not traded any of our young dudes or assets so far. That also might be attributable to Joe Lacob, but as you know, I don't want to trade for any whatever just to try to like stack the deck and give up our future. So I'm good. And I'm happy that he hasn't made any moves because, hey, you look around, you're 15-2 and you're like, okay, solid. But my next one is kind of obvious, I guess. I'm thankful for Klay Thompson. I'm thankful for this kind of grown up Klay Thompson. It seems like he's done a lot of time to think, and he's done a lot of reflection. And the guy that left in the 2019 finals and the guy who's coming back, we don't know if he'll be the same guy on the court, but I like this version that is much more eloquent with the media. He clearly has been thinking on a lot of things, not just himself and his career in basketball, but also just things going on in the world and whatnot. And I remember a preseason presser with him and watching it, and I was like, oh man, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about, right? Like, remember when he would just kind of like look down and like talk to himself and barely say any words? I appreciate the dude he's become because he was super entertaining before. And I think this older, more mature version is going to be just as entertaining in those same ways, but he's going to be more vocal no matter what. So I'm looking forward to that return, regardless of whether we get like a 90% version of Klay Thompson or a 70% version. I'm looking forward to not just him on the court, but also like off the court.
My next one is related to your original comment about Bob Myers. And it is being thankful for having not one, but two G League teams in the Bay Area. Not only the Santa Cruz Warriors, which is clearly, our best sort of training ground for young players, and where Jordan Poole blossomed for those 12 games or so down in the G League or whatever number of games. That was sort of the clear trajectory pusher that got him to where he is. But also the fact that G League Ignite is located in Walnut Creek. And if my memory serves me correctly, Bob Myers lives in Danville, which is 8 miles from Walnut Creek. And so you can imagine how many times he got to see Kuminga play last year in Walnut Creek during closed games. They don't play games in Walnut Creek anymore. It's sort of a traveling road show where they play all their games away, but they did play in Walnut Creek. And so the fact that we have two, we have a bunch of different basketball teams in the Bay Area that are better than the Sacramento Kings is pretty awesome, including G League tonight.
I think that's great. One thing I loved about when Jonathan Kuminga got drafted, in one of his interviews, he said, he's just going back to the Bay Area, it's close to Walnut Creek, and I'm like, nice. Nice. My next one is probably even more obvious, is I'm thankful that Steph Curry is still peak Steph, still in his prime. I talked about this in a recent episode, how as great as the Warriors were with Kevin Durant, I felt like coming off that unanimous MVP, we never really got to see Steph just as the main guy. And I thought that was going to happen in the 2019-2020 season. And obviously he broke his hand, and we got to see it last year, but the team around him was just not up to par. And now this team is there. And so we're starting to see exactly what he can do. He may not be as quick to the basket, but he's stronger, he's craftier. His shot is still obviously like the greatest of all time. And we're seeing that his game will translate to his mid 30s and even late 30s when he's maybe playing a little bit more off ball. I don't take Steph for granted watching the games, but when I'm sitting here recording episodes, like, it's kind of like he's the baseline, right? Like, okay, let me focus on some of these other more uncertain variables on this Warriors team, whereas like Steph is just Steph, right? So I wanted to give a shout out to Steph, because I'll be really bummed when he's gone, because he is the closest thing to just like pure like basketball magic, because what he does is so strange. And I don't know if anyone will have his combination of shooting and off-ball movement and skill and awareness. And so I'm thankful for him, and I'm thankful he's still playing the way he is. I'll be really, really, like, I've thought about like post Steph, even though it might be a few years, several years, hopefully several years away, it's going to be a bummer. As good as I hope some of the younger guys are going to be, they won't be that.
It won't be the same. Yeah. And I thought about this too every time he just has a crazy Steph moment. And I have trouble being in the present, and the Warriors have said this too about their title run, is they probably won't enjoy this until afterwards. But every time I think about Steph being gone, I think about like how Laker fans are not necessarily Laker fans, but they're like Kobe fans, Like, are we going to be like the Kobe equivalent? Are we going to be like, oh, Steph Curry, do or die, like 10 years from now when there's like another guy coming in? I hope not. I don't think I'll be, but it'll be hard to not compare to Steph Curry. I don't think I'll be the, go out and spray paint a LeBron jersey, a LeBron James mural Laker fan. But, definitely makes me appreciate Steph Curry more, knowing that there's people out there that are just like hardcore Kobe people who just can't be Laker fans first.
Right.
My next one, God, I have a bunch that are kind of random, but I would say, and this is something I listened to on the Bill Simmons podcast, but 2 years of losses basically have made the Warriors really angry this year. They are really good, and they are showing people and willing to show people. The prime example is Steph Curry staying a little bit too long in the fourth quarter against the Nets to get those final 3-pointers to get to 9 threes in one game, and just pushing up the score when you really shouldn't be playing. There's going to be moments like that where they're just like, why are they playing so hard against X, Y, and Z team? And it's just because you remember those moments in the dark years of the last 2 years where they would just get beat up by just random teams. And they're just kind of, apparently the players were saying that to all the Warrior players during the time, like, where are your championship teams now? Or where's this, where's that? And they just beat them while they're down. And so they definitely remember.
I wonder how Michael Mulder took those comments.
Yeah, Michael Mulder.
The NHL season is underway, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has an unbelievable offer to celebrate the greatest sport on ice. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. Doesn't matter if it's a one-time clapper or a deft deflection, however they light the lamp, you win. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. Basketball, football, UFC, you name it. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Throw down $1 on any NHL game and win 100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. This week, one puck in the net nets you a big win with promo code TBPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to the Oakland Warriors podcast. Do you know Oakland Warriors is a website too? OaklandWarriors.com offers a collection of Warriors t-shirts that are comfy, classy, and cool. Fit for a real Warriors fan like you. Forget basic tees and boring designs. With Oakland Warriors, you can show your team pride with those in the know. I have a shirt from OaklandWarriors.com. It's comfy and soft, and it reps the Dubs in a low-key but fun way. Don't believe me? Check out OaklandWarriors.com and use the code podcast at checkout for a 10% discount.
The next thing I'm thankful for is Malice in the Palace. What happened between LeBron and Isaiah Stewart reminded me of Malice in the Palace. I really feel like the original 30 for 30 should have ended with "This is how the We Believe Warriors started," which essentially started the beginning of the renaissance of the Warriors. We're talking Steven Jackson, Al Harrington, basically starting off the We Believe Warriors. So I can't say it enough. That was sort of reinvigorating. And at the time, it was very weird because we're like, I don't know how you thought about that, but it was sort of like, wait a second, what are we getting here? But yeah, I mean, I feel like the heart of the Warriors was started there. Just sort of the We Believe attitude, just leading to this level of entitlement now that even though, we have all these championships, there's still this level of We Believe that runs through the veins of at least all the fans and everybody that's involved.
Yeah, it's crazy how much that We Believe team resonates and how much they go back to it because, it was just a team that it was a bunch of underdogs that won one series, and they were so legendary after that. And then the next season, they became at the time the winningest team in NBA history not to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, the best Warriors, the ones that are sort of the ones that we love the most are a 73-win team that did not win the championship, a We Believe team that only made it past the first round, past the Mavs, and did not beat Darren Williams-led Utah Jazz, and 2 years of Run TMC. I mean, those are the most beloved things in Warriors history, and they were actually losses. Every single one of them.
And I mean, you see other franchises these days who will celebrate like the most random trivial thing. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like when I was in college in Chicago, every year they celebrated the 1985 Chicago Bears, and being a Niners fan growing up, I was like, you won one Super Bowl. Congratulations,
And I do make fun of the 2 Eastern Conference banners that the Cavs hang up in their arena. And I love the fact that we don't hang stuff like that up. But then if you walk around the Chase Center, you're seeing a bunch of original art that shows Run TMC. You're seeing a bunch of original art of the We Believe team. So we do celebrate it, but just not basketball-wise. We celebrate it culturally, which I think is very different.
Right. My next thing that I'm thankful for is the fact that the Los Angeles Lakers signed a bunch of old dudes this year. And that may not be directly related to the Warriors, but it is most certainly indirectly related to the Warriors because the Lakers were the favorites. After they traded for Russ, everybody kind of laughed, but then they got the 2010 Eastern All-Stars or something to join up. And people were like, oh, yeah, this team's going to be pretty good. They're the favorites, but now they're mired in mediocrity. And don't get me wrong, I think they'll figure something out as time goes. But it's just a joy to watch them in contrast to the Warriors. Not just because I'm a Warriors fan, but as a basketball fan, I've said this many times before. I love homegrown talent. And yes, there's some free agents. And yes, there have been trades over the years, but there's no denying that the core of this team is homegrown. They made it through the draft. Steph, Klay, Draymond, even the young dudes, Kuminga, Wiseman, Moody. That's pretty good. And I can totally appreciate that, as opposed to, I mean, let's face it, like Lakers fans, they just love being the front runners. It's a town where people come from all over the place to be in the limelight, and that's what their team usually is, right? So it's not so much homegrown, and this team right here is like the epitome of that they just got a bunch of dudes with big names and glitzy resumes, and so far it's not working, and it's created a whole bunch of very entertaining internet videos of Russell Westbrook bricking threes, of Russell Westbrook throwing errant passes, of Russell Westbrook making bad decisions, of Anthony Davis falling over, all this stuff. And in all fun, man, like I'm very thankful for that, because it makes what the Warriors have put together all the more sweeter.
I would also add to that and basically say the Lakers we're actually pretty close to having a decent team. Between the Lonzo Ball, Caruso, DeMar DeRozan show in Chicago, the Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, KCP show in DC, and Buddy Hield playing for the Kings. But they end up with Avery Bradley, someone who didn't make the Warriors roster. So I guess I'm saying I'm thankful for LeBron GM as well. LeBron GM does it again. GM LeBron, thank you very much. I think I would say I enjoy a Lakers loss like 80% as much as I do a Warriors win.
I would agree with that.
My next one is just the start of the season being a quote unquote weak schedule. I know the Jazz and the Suns also have a somewhat weak schedule lately, but the fact that I think in my head I just wanted us to be at 500 until Klay got back, and the fact that we have the best record in the league with Klay coming back. I know there's going to be some growing pains getting Wiseman and Klay back in, but if our bar was just to stack all the easy games when Klay's not in, and then just to stack the hard games when the team should be rolling, I mean, I'm not sure what would be more ideal. I should also note, though, this team is relatively old. Half the team is, and Klay's been out for 2 years. Andre Iguodala is 37 years old. Draymond, even though he has the Olympics conditioning, and Steph, always Steph. I would also add my last point would be what I'm grateful for is the NBA extending not testing for marijuana use for one additional year after experimenting with it in the bubble. I think that's a huge deal. I think the benefits of CBD, THC, what have you, is definitely better than the addiction to painkillers that NFL players have been going through the last few decades. So can't say enough about that when it comes to healing and mindfulness and just being able to handle the stress and just sleep as well, like being able to sleep. Just thank you. Thank you, Michelle Roberts and Adam Silver. Let's make this permanently, especially for teams that are playing in states that legalize marijuana. Maybe that's a competitive advantage. I don't know if they're allowed to do that. They probably won't be, which sucks for places like Oklahoma and other states that'll never legalize. But yeah, good luck.
Yeah, man, that's going to hurt free agency for the flyover states for sure.
There's a few surprising states that have legalized marijuana, but I'm pretty sure Oklahoma City does not.
What, like Colorado?
Colorado was, one of the first.
Do they count as a flyover?
It does. That's it for me. I mean, I had Pool Island, but that's a pretty obvious one. Just being on Pool Island, which is like a large, it's like the size of Australia and has 17 different amusement parks and all you can drink bars and free land and multi-mansions. Like, I don't know what else I can say about Pool Island, but it's basically like I bought Bitcoin when it was $6 and now I'm sitting on $60,000 a Bitcoin. Like, I don't know how else to explain how much Pool Island is valued at right now.
I will say that, I'm super stoked about Pool Island. It has more value than Mannion. Nico Mannion Island, which I own like half of it, but I'm not going to give that up. I think it might come back someday. If Nico Mannion was on this roster instead of Chris Chiozza, I would just be like, oh man, this is the greatest roster of all time. Well, I guess my last thing to be thankful for is everybody who listens to this podcast and everybody who's been on it. I rebooted this podcast just because I missed basketball during the pandemic, and it's still going, and the listenership has grown. And so I appreciate y'all out there. Thank you for tuning in and being Warriors fans and listening to our stick.
And on behalf of all listeners of this podcast, I would like to say we are all thankful for Patrick's voice, the ASMR soothing tones of Patrick. When you've been reading off advertisements, I did not realize it was you. I thought it was the actual advertisement announcer. It's pretty amazing.
That's my voiceover voice.
Yeah, next time Pixar has a Filipino-based movie, like I think you should definitely sign up.
I'm there.
Yeah, they're going to do Lapu Lapu, I think. So a Pixar version of Lapu Lapu story. That'd be great.
Let me try to increase my IMDb rating. All right. Well, thanks, Vubang. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving, man. This has been another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter at Patrick Epino, E-P-I-N-O, or at Oakland Warriors. Check us out at oaklandwarriors.com, and be sure to tell your fellow Warrior fan friends to tune in and listen. The Oakland Warriors podcast is produced by National Film Society and is a part of the Basketball Podcast Network. And if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star review and rating on Apple Podcasts. That helps a ton. And happy holidays. That's it. Music in this episode provided by Paper Sun. Special thanks to Paul Amardo for production support. See you next time, and go Dubs.